The darkness continues.
Peace, folk. This is X, but you knew that already. That's why your black asses are here. This is just going to be a short analysis of a video that I was sent. Shout out to Brother Hood Conservative. He sent me this video the other night. We were talking about a Harvard sociologist by the name of Christina Cross, as you can see here, and alongside her picture here and her credentials. She believes that fathers are not that important to black children. It doesn't make that much of a difference, according to her. But this ideal is not new. According to this video sent to me by Brother Hood Conservative, there was a similar thought, or there has been a similar thought, dating back 2012, 2013, 2014. Now, in front of you here, you see the one and only Melissa Harris Perry. Now, Melissa Harris Perry is a PhD. I believe she's a professor. She's been a MSNBC journalist. I believe she left there in 2016. She seems to believe the same thing. And she has some cohorts with her that you will see, and will be stopping this every now and then to go through it and kind of analyze what's being said here. Let us begin.
Hero to end all heroes, someone who could end all of the troubles plaguing the nation, poverty, violence, hunger, just by showing up. And if you are an avid news consumer, you probably know just who I am talking about. The magical Black Daddy.
Now let's stop right there. She's already coming off as condescending, right? From the get-go. So she's setting this up. But let's continue.
Absent black father. He figured prominently in a news story out of New Jersey earlier this month. A reporter from New Jersey's News 12 station was covering the story of a 23-year-old police officer who was shot and killed while on the job, allegedly by this man, Lawrence Campbell. The station decided to play part of an interview with Campbell's wife, in which she suggested her husband should have killed more officers, comments she later apologized for. Then News 12 reporter Sean Bergen decided he wanted to explain to viewers why the station aired the woman's controversial remarks. Off script, but on air, he told viewers, "We decided to air it because it is important to shine a light on this anti-cop mentality that has so contaminated America's inner cities. It has made the police officer's job impossible, and it has got to stop. The underlying cause for all of this, of course, young black men growing up without fathers." Unfortunately, no one in the news media has the courage to touch that subject.
Now let's stop there. I agree with that sentiment. Now, I don't necessarily believe that the whole anti-cop thing is about young black men not having fathers. But I do believe the anti-authority thing has a lot to do with young black men not having fathers. But let's continue.
Comments led to Bergen's suspension, and he eventually resigned. But he also landed an interview on Fox News, where he doubled down.
I think you could certainly draw a connection between fatherless young men and this feeling of anti-authoritarianism and an utter disrespect for authority in all its forms.
Bergen may believe he is
Once again, I agree with the white man. Anti-authority comes with not having a father. But let's get back to Mrs. Perry.
To ever draw a link between the alleged absence of black fathers and negative community outcomes, but he's actually tapping into a pretty long perpetuated narrative. In a new column for The Nation entitled "The Myth of the Magical Black Father," Michael Denzel Smith writes, "The missing black father has been a point of discourse in our media, popular culture, and academy for at least the past 30 years. It's one of the more common and insulting tropes we have in the canon of black pathology. Smith asks if there
That's
could maybe
weird that they say black pathology. Now we know here on the old YouTube arena that there's a lot of black pathology going on. And there's also a lot of going on. But we continue.
just possibly be any other reason for young black men to harbor distrust of the police, like, say, experiencing disproportionate harassment and violence at the hands of the police. But this is the disconnect, he writes. Bergen and others who think like him.
Now let's stop there. Now, we know that, black communities are heavily policed. All right, there's no denying that. And I do agree that young black men are distrustful of police because of that. I will give them that. I will give them that all day long. But let's continue.
See the harassment of young black men by police as a result of racism. They take the view that there are certain criminal behaviors prevalent among black men to which police are responding, and those criminal behaviors, according to the narrative, are a direct result of growing up without a father in the home. The missing black father has been a popular scapegoat for the real structural problems facing black
And
Americans.
I agree.
Especially,
you're more likely to be a criminal if you don't have a father. The stats prove it. Do they not? Do they not, Perry? Do they not? Do they? You're more likely to go to jail, more likely to be on drugs. If you're a girl, you're more likely to be promiscuous, more likely to pop up pregnant as a teenager. I mean, the data supports this. But we continue with Miss Perry.
those of lower income, problems that our legislators over the decades have failed to use policy to adequately address. As Smith writes in his article, the legacy of racism and white supremacy will not be undone by an army of magical black fathers.
Hold it. So it's the legislators' problem. The crime, the poverty, the fact that young black men sell dope, get locked up, go to prison, shoot folks, end up being shot. It's all the legislators' fault. Has nothing to do with the structure of the home. Nothing at all. That doesn't mean anything, right? You can grow up in a chaotic baby mama house, and that has nothing to do with you turning into a chaotic adult. Absolutely nothing. But let's continue.
With me at the table, one magical black father, Michael Eric Dyson, and MSNBC.
Now, no one's saying that the legacy of racism and white supremacy will be undone because fathers come into the home. But what I do believe will happen is that, number one, better children will come out of those black homes. More respectful children, more astute children, children who take education more seriously, children who will have not only physical discipline, but mental discipline, emotional discipline, and quite possibly more sexual discipline. That's what I believe. But I'm just a man with a mic, a computer, a camera, and an ideology. I am not a scholar like the folks you're about to meet. But let's continue.
Sorry,
Michael
Georgetown
Eric
University.
Dyson.
Elon James White, media director for Netroots Nation and the CEO of This Week in Blackness.
James White, he's there too.
Michael Denzel Smith, a fellow at the
Smith.
Nation Institute and
He's
author
there.
of the piece The Myth of the Magical Black Father, and Brittany Cooper, assistant
Brittany
professor
Cooper.
of women.
We ain't even gonna go there, y'all. But you look around, and this is the black intelligentsia, right? Scholars, writers, PhDs, journalists, the best of the best of the best, right? Let's continue.
Had a good time when we saw your piece, not because it's a funny piece, but because the headline kind of reveals that sense of angst about the ways in which this constantly becomes the story.
Yeah, and this is new to me, to blame anti-cop mentality on the lack of black fathers. And that, to me, like,
anti-authoritarianism,
right,
which I was like, yeah, well, I am anti-authoritarian, yes.
And if you think that way, you're missing, and you're denying the experience of black men with police. Like, if all of a sudden, whatever number of black people that grow up without fathers, it's like 900% or something like that. If all of the fathers show up tomorrow, it's not going to suddenly mean that black children are going to respect police, because those black fathers are going to come with their own experiences with those police, and they're going to pass those lessons down to their children.
And I mean, given that we just
Wait
spent
a
about half an
minute,
hour.
buddy. No one said that if fathers were in the home, that kids would magically respect police. No one's saying that. But I do believe, like I said earlier, that children would have more respect for authority, meaning they would carry themselves different around adults. They would carry themselves different around people who are in authority, not just police, but teachers, other adults in the neighborhood, other adults in the world, even other adults in their family. Why? Because men provide structure, respect, discipline. Brother. But let's continue.
We're talking about an African-American father who was killed during an encounter with police. It underlines that point. Elon, I also want to underline that, I mean, although we were seeing that happen on Fox News in that one clip, that this is almost a truism. So I want to listen to President Obama talking about the power of the black father for a moment.
Now, they're going to go to this clip about Obama, you know, the one that they hailed, you know, when he was running. You know, they hailed, you know, this black man, and they gave him all this coverage, and they can't believe the black man finally became president. He was going to do all these great things for black people. But once he goes to talking about this, watch what happens.
There's no more important ingredient for success. Nothing that would be more important for us reducing violence than strong, stable families. Which means we should do more to promote marriage.
Strong, stable families. Let's continue. Families.
And encourage fatherhood.
Okay.
I understand what Obama wants to do. I
Yes.
get it. But at the same time, he doesn't understand how he's actively adding to this trope that is just, it's so false that I don't know what to do with it anymore. At this point, especially as someone who was raised, like I was the one without a father. Like I didn't have that father.
Active families. Fatherhood is a trope when it comes to black people. And he just can't understand it. He can't understand the president talking about families and fatherhood. It's just a trope, according to him. But let's continue.
Around, and I've told people on numerous occasions, God forbid my father would have stayed around. My life would have been so much worse.
That explains a lot, right? Notice it's always the people who were raised without a father telling you how you don't need one. Because, see, it's the old line that I always use. Well, I know someone who didn't have a father and they grew up to be an astronaut. Look at me. I grew up without a father, and I'm just fine. I'm rich. I'm this. I'm that. As if that's the norm. As if the stats don't prove otherwise. As if you are not familiar with the word outlier. Liar. But let's continue.
around. And I've told people on numerous occasions, God forbid my father would have stayed around. My life would have been so much worse. So much more problems would have been added. It was because of my single black mother.
So because your life would have been worse with a father, that means let's not encourage fatherhood. Let's not encourage fathers being in children's lives, because see me, if my father was in my life would have been horrible. But let's continue.
Who was the reason why I'm able to sit here today and do what I do and speak on the things I speak on, and somehow there's
Because
like,
of
no.
my single black mother, that's why I'm sitting here today. You know, I come from a single black mother, and I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an astronaut, I'm a pilot, I'm a millionaire. But let's continue.
But if you had a father, then what? I would have been abused? Like what else? Like the people try to pretend that father means like magical fix for everything, and it doesn't.
It's this mix of like pathologizing black people and this paternalism.
No one thinks that, sir. No. It's not a magical fix for everything. But you are less likely to grow up to be an idiot. You are less likely to grow up and kill someone. You are less likely to grow up and be a drug addict. You are less likely to grow up and be incarcerated. I can go on and on and on and on and on, sir. What you're saying is ridiculous right now. Maybe in your particular case, your singular case, your pops being around might have been a problem. But let's not sit up here, man, and act like it's everybody, man. You're being disingenuous, brother. I'm sorry. But let's continue.
What you think black people are missing is discipline, and then you mythologize the idea of the father as a disciplinarian within the household.
And God forbid that the black mother as a disciplinarian is evil and she's abusive.
Wait a minute. It's a myth now that fathers are the disciplinarian. Yeah, it's a big old myth, because discipline would be there whether he's there or not, right? Oh, your dad he doesn't symbolize discipline. Absolutely not. Your mom does. Your father, he's just kind of there, right? To donate semen from time to time and go out and work, make a paycheck. It's mom who controls all of this disciplinary action, right, brother? But let's continue.
The household.
And God forbid that the black mother as a disciplinarian is evil and she's abusive and she's a problem.
That's right, sir. You actually said something that I agree with. Yes, when mothers are the disciplinarian, she is evil. She is abusive. She is a problem. She is abusive. Especially when you're talking about black folk. We talk about this all the time. I'm known as these old mamas man. And black women beat their children more than black men do. They just do. When children are being abused, when children are being hurt, when children are being roughed up, guess who's doing it? Now, y'all are basically admitting that most black children are being raised with their mother. So, if children are being abused, who do you think's doing it, sir? Oh, maybe it's the dad doing it, even though he's not there. Maybe he's doing it telekinetically from wherever he is in the world, right? But let's continue.
And this is not just you guys mouthing off. I want to go to the Moynihan report. And to you, Brittany, I'm so glad you made this point about violence, because it brings us, I think, to this critical issue. So in the Moynihan report, right, so in a moment when there is still legalized segregation in the nation, we have a Democrat writing, a fundamental fact of Negro American family life is the often reverse roles of husband and wife. The matriarchal pattern of so many Negro families reinforces itself over the generations. Negro children without fathers flounder and fail. And then I want to point out
that's more often the case, Lady Perry. Negro children without fathers do have a tendency to flounder and fail. Ever been to a prison? Ever talk to any convicts? The vast majority of them come from where? Single mama homes. Whether they're black, white, green, blue, purple. Yeah, that's pretty much the rank and file prisoner. Now, is everybody in there from a single mother home? Absolutely not. But the overwhelming majority of inmates, they come from single parent homes, madam. Most of the people doing life in prison, single parent home. Most of the rapists, single parent homes. Most of the murderers, single parent homes, madam. But let's continue.
That sort of deep and old and entrenched notion about black fathers then has a very real effect. Sarah Schoner, writing about domestic violence in the New York Times, says that mental health professionals, law enforcement officials, judges, and members of the clergy often showed greater concern for the maintenance of a two-parent family than for the safety of the mother and her children. Women who left abusive men were frequently perceived at best as mothers who had not successfully kept their children out of harm's way. So, Brittany, I feel like it's not just that it's wrong, it's that it is potentially quite dangerous to continue to have this narrative.
Yes.
It's dangerous because, see, every single black man who a woman mates up with, who a woman has a child with, who a woman marries, it's potentially dangerous to have this father around because every single black man is potentially an abuser. So, yeah, it's great for the father to not be around because he might be an abuser. He may put the woman and the children in danger. Now, talking about having fathers in the house is just a trope, but this is not. Unbelievable.
My story,
But let's go.
Elon is speaking to my story. My life was infinitely better when my father left. He was a domestic abuser. We needed policies that helped my mother to come out of poverty, to...
My life was definitely better when Dad left. So that means everybody's life will be better when Dad leaves, right, Mrs. Cooper? Right. Because, that's the case for you. Everybody should pick up that mantle because it may possibly be the case for them too. But let's continue.
We needed policies that helped my mother to come out of poverty, to be able to support me, to be able to keep us safe. And
we needed the government so Mom can come out of poverty. Mom couldn't come out of poverty on her own, right? She couldn't do what she needed to do for you and I guess your brothers and sisters to get out of that on her own. She needed government to do it. And she also needed government to understand that Dad's an abuser. You know, the guy that she picked to reproduce with. But let's continue.
That helped my mother to come out of poverty, to be able to support me, to be able to keep a safe and healthy household. Now, I want to be clear. We don't have to be anti-black dad.
But that's what you're being right now. You must understand this, madam. That's what you're being right now. You're being anti-black father. Don't you see that? Every single comment that have come out of y'all black ass mouths is anti-father. Right, Lady Cooper. But let's continue.
In order to say, right? You know, because
I like my black daddy.
That's right, because
Notice how everybody just broke out in cheers when they talked about, we're not anti-black daddy, but wait a minute. Black men are dangerous. They're cruel. They're all domestic abusers. It's better when they're away from the children, which goes against the CDC statistics, of course, that black fathers are the best fathers, but that means nothing to the black intelligentsia that we're seeing before us. But let's continue.
Because we will be accused of that, but there are two problems here. One is recognizing that blaming black fathers and black mothers for these pathologies is unfair to both, right?
So who should you blame? Oh, wait a minute. We need to blame all the white folks for what black people do, right? Black people have nothing to do with the conditions they're in. Black people have nothing to do with the families they create or the lack thereof. They have absolutely nothing to do with it. It's all about white folks, white supremacy, the white power structure, racism, Jim Crow, and everything else. Black folks are just inside of this jar like ants, waiting for Big Daddy government to either sprinkle food in there or pour water in there and drown them. Let's continue.
Are not responsible for overcoming the legacies of structural racism that we all fight with, that we all are struggling against. And these kinds of discourses give them powers that they don't have. And so we begin to talk about magic when folks won't have
BS, lady. BS. When you're a father, you do have the power to overcome this racism and this racism way of thinking of black people. You know why? Because you have a direct effect on your children. How they turn out, what they grow up to, their mind state, their sense of self, their understanding of the world. But see, people like you don't believe that fathers can do this. People like you think a father is just there, like I said, to donate some sperm every now and then and bring home a paycheck. When we know that that's not true. When we know that black fathers have a tendency to just be better fathers, period. On all accords. That's just a fact. But what do we know? Let's continue.
Honest conversation about structural realities, right? The second problem here is that we need to support black fathers and make a way for a different sort of...
We shouldn't support black fathers. We shouldn't support fatherhood. We shouldn't support reproductive rights of black men. We shouldn't support any of that, according to you, right, Madam Cooper? Why support black fathers? It's black mothers who are the most important, even though all the statistics say otherwise. But let's continue.
Narrative about how family structures can exist. So the real issue here is that there's an indictment of black people for not being in marriages, as opposed to, and so not achieving a heteronormative nuclear family ideal. That's what the Moynihan report does in a particular way. So then the last point is that the state then goes around acting like a baby daddy to black folks, right? Giving welfare, quote unquote, to black mothers as though we should be thankful for that, and disciplining black fathers literally to the point of killing them. And so we should...
So the state acts like a baby daddy, giving welfare to women, like they should be thankful for that. Don't you think that that's part of the problem? That the state are these kids' daddy, not their father. But let's continue.
Reject the narrative that patriarchy in any form, including the state acting as a proxy baby daddy, is going to solve any of these problems.
And the irony, of course, is that the nation...
Well, that's where I agree with her. I don't believe the state can solve these problems. But I do believe that some of these problems that exist within certain pockets of black society can be solved when you have fathers raising the children. I believe a lot of things can be solved by fathers raising the children. And I'm not talking about the bum-ass dudes who got 5 and 10 baby mamas by 5 and 5 and 10 different states, because these guys aren't really fathers, all right? These guys are just people who drop their seed in everywhere they want to drop it. I'm talking about involved fathers who really care about the children. There's no denying that this is the best thing for black children. Now, I know we like to deny it because most of us come from these old mamas, and how dare we indict mama But boy, we can sit up here and indict the old man, can't we? But let's continue.
The nation has a black father right now, and they hate him. The nation has rejected Barack Obama as the collective paternal influence on this nation.
Because he actually was insufficiently magical. It turned out that the election of President Obama did not, in fact, remove all of the problems of the world. He was not able to sprinkle a magical dust, right?
Well, I don't think anybody with any intelligence, Madam Perry, believed that Barack Obama being elected was going to solve all the world's problems and end racism and, you know, make black fathers be in the home and get some type of control over this baby mama crisis that we face and the crime and the poverty and the incarceration. I don't believe anybody thought that. Oh, wait a minute. You people thought that. You people thought that. But old Barack Obama showed you different, didn't he? He showed you that he wasn't going to solve your damn problems. You're going to have to do that yourself. But let's continue.
Doc X.
But let me also just, because I want to go back to Brittany's point that we don't want to suggest that, I mean, again, I like my black father. He has challenges, but I love my black, and my husband is an extraordinary father, and even my ex-husband, who wasn't a very good husband, is a really good father to our child. But can we separate out a question about
now, notice what she said. She loves her father. She said her ex-husband, who wasn't a good husband, but he's a good father. But let's continue.
Emotional angst or joy that people may feel in a relationship from the possibility of life outcomes. My child from divorce will likely have as good an outcome as my child in the context of marriage because I have education and wealth and income and opportunity. Not because daddy exists or doesn't.
My child would have probably turned out good anyway, you know, because I'm educated, I have money, I have wealth. So even if her father, who is a good father, by the way, she just said it, even if her father wasn't in her life, hey, my child would be fine anyway, right? But that's you. You know, lady, that the data says otherwise. You know this. But for some reason, you want to sit up here and tell people that, oh, just because, you know, you have a good father in your life, guess what? Even if you didn't have him, you'd be just fine. Especially if your mom has education and wealth. Let's continue.
Because I have education and wealth and income and opportunity. Not because daddy
not
exists
because
or doesn't.
daddy exists. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Education, opportunity. My kid has all of that, which they would have had anyway. Because, see, I got money. I'm on TV. So even if her daddy just abandoned her and didn't want nothing to do with me and didn't want nothing to do with the kid, my kid would be just fine. Amazing.
Well, look, absolutely right. I mean, the reality is that we want healthy families, not nuclear families. Anything nuclear is bound to react ultimately anyway.
Anything nuclear is ultimately going to react anyway. Now, this man here is a scholar, and I respect his intelligence. But for him to come up here and say, oh, the nuclear family, it's bound to react anyway. This is an educated, schooled man, a professor. This man is one of the greatest black intellectuals that we are aware of, allegedly. And he will sit up here and talk about how the nuclear family will react in a nuclear way. Let's continue.
So what's interesting is
explosively,
that,
yes.
Exactly. So the thing is that
Madam Perry had to add explosively, even though that's not the case with her or her child. But she had to throw that in there to compound the narrative that he's about to lay out right now. Let's listen.
If we have as an outcome, a potential outcome here, the healthiness mentally and spiritually and morally of this child, or the mother who is the primary caretaker, or the father, then it says that that relationship may be destructive and therefore we have to leave it. But don't forget here that we got this Christian narrative that's been interpolated within the context of African American culture, where you got a lot of conservative black people on a Sunday morning going like, yep, the problem is, including women, we need the daddy in the house, because when the daddy has the authority, then the child will be blessed and the family will be healthy. So what we're fighting against is not simply social pathology that has been articulated by Daniel Moynihan. We're talking about the bishop and the reverend and the minister who is expressing a theological justification for some of the
Brother Dyson, you know goddamn well that most black preachers do not preach family or fathers or fathering or marriage. A lot of these black ass preachers, all they preach is you can do bad by yourself. All they preach is, girl, you gotta pray for your husband. That's what they preach. They're not preaching keep the father in the home even though he's abusive. They're not preaching keep the father in the home at all. Because they know if they preach fathering, their goddamn revenue will go down. Because most black men will walk in that church and be like, man, pastor, this is some bullshit you talking right now. I'm taking my wife and my kids up out of here. So I don't know what black churches he goes to, but I'm pretty sure most of the black churches today are filled with what? Black women. So is the church really perpetuating a message of marriage and fathering, Professor Dyson? Are they really? I suggest you go to a few of these black churches if you haven't been to any, and look around. Look who's sitting in those seats. And then ask yourself, are these preachers, pastors, ministers, and bishops preaching family? Preaching black men being in the home? Or even preaching marriage? Come on, brother. Knock it off. 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 Knock it off.
Doc XoDus.
We talking about the bishop and the reverend and the minister who is expressing
so the preachers are also justifying it by way of theology. All of this violence that's going on domestically inside the black home. Because see, when a black man's in there, the climate is so violent. It's extremely violent when a black man inhabits it.
Justification for some of the most violent consequences of black domestic realities in the country.
We done put Michael Eric Dyson on TV at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, so you know church was going to happen.
Church? This was BS. Nobody in here was preaching, lady. And I guarantee you, there's 5 people sitting around that table. And I guarantee you, at least 3 of them was raised by baby mamas. If not all of them. This is what we have. These are the people who talk about this crap. Always some black woman. Usually she's raised by an old baby mama. And black men who are usually raised by some old baby mama. So of course they're going to get up there and say, well, you know, we don't really need fathers. No one should be talking about fatherhood. No one should be discussing that at all, because guess what? Just because you got a father doesn't mean you're going to turn out to be a decent person. Just because you got a father doesn't mean you're not going to grow up to be a killer, rapist, bank robber, thief, carjacker. No. That slightest little chance of you becoming a miscreant when you have a father is enough to have a whole news segment about how fathers aren't as important as everyone claims they are. That doesn't make any sense. Not to me. Now, mind you, I'll say again, Lady Perry here said she has a decent father that she loves. She says her child has a decent father that loves that child. She even said he was a great father, even though he was a horrible husband. So I don't see where the correlation of someone being a horrible mate also means they are a horrible father, which she even said herself. She makes the point herself. But you know, this is media. This is black folks. And these are the things we hear from black folk. And these aren't just, like I said, regular black folks. They're not sitting in a barber shop. They're sitting on a major network news program. Millions of people watching. And what's the message? Fathers aren't as important as you think. I'm so disappointed. Because this is why we have the narratives that we have. Because even the educated, schooled, scholarly black people push this damn notion that who needs a father? Who needs a father? Who needs a father? Because guess what? Your father may be abusive. He may beat your mom. He may beat you. So that alone negates all the evidence of how good black fathers are. That alone should make women weary about having a father in a child's life. Because the thought of her very safety being jeopardized is way more important than the development of the children.
Next, we have a little bit more on this because I want to talk about some of Nerdland's favorite black but not magical dads.
Black but not magical dads. Wow. This is what we have, people. Like I told y'all the other night when we streamed. People like Christina Cross are not alone. And these are the upper echelon of black folks. These are college professors, journalists, writers, reporters, people who write books and have television programs. Now, mind you, I believe this was, obviously this was back in like 2013, 2014 when she did this, but it's active now. These things are going on now. And to be honest with you, I'm actually glad that she left television. Because television is a big, big outlet. Millions of people watching every single day. Millions watching. So what kind of influence does she have? How many people's minds did she change? Melissa Perry and company up there. You see them. How much influence did they have when they did this? Something to think about, isn't it? But we out of here. Once again, man, shout out to the Hood Conservative, man, for sending me this. This stuff is crazy, man. As long as we can sit back and diminish black men, no one gives a damn. Even though the statistics say Black men are the best fathers. They beat out Latinos. They beat out white men. They beat out Asians. When they're in a child's life, their lives are just better off. The kid's going to be better off. Black men spend more time with their children than white men do. Asian men do. Latino men do. Even when the father doesn't live with the child. As a matter of fact, take a look at these stats here. I will leave y'all with these stats. You can look at them for yourself. And who knows? Maybe I'll send a copy to the black intelligentsia that we just witnessed. Peace, folks. Peace, folks. Peace, we out of here. Peace, folks. Peace, folks. Peace, folks. Peace, folks. Another.
The darkness continues. Open your minds.
Only from T.P.O.T. Media. Open your minds.